Hello, everyone. I'm Daniel Kobryner, high energy mental fitness coach, and the host of this podcast called Redesign Your Life Today. This podcast is about transformation. It's about showing everyone that change is possible at any time in your life. And I invite very inspiring guests, people who are helping others, doing this world a better place, and who have helped countless people really want and live the life they want. And today it's a very special day because I've got this very special guest. It's Yvette Rose. Yvette is a healer. She's written countless books, spoken in many countries. She's an inspiration. And what I will do is I will let her really talk to us about her, what she does, and we'll go from there. Very, very warm welcome to you, Yvette. So pleased to have you on this platform.
Oh, bless Daniel. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. I am so happy to be here with you and with everyone else as well. So, as you said, I'm a healer. And what I also love to do is I'm a holistic counselor. And what I learned with my work is how to bridge spirituality with psychology. I am so passionate about this. I've seen beautiful changes in myself and also in clients. So this is something that for many, many years that I've just been diving deep into. And like you said, I've written 21 books. I've taught in over 43 countries. So I've had the opportunity and the blessing to learn from so many different cultures, so many different people, and so many different ways of that we have problems and challenges in our lives. And how do we navigate that? Because every person is so different. And what this journey also taught me is how to be flexible when I work with people, how to be flexible with change and transformation. Because while we are on this topic of change and transformation, would you believe many, many, many years ago, if you and I had to meet maybe 18 years ago, I would be introducing myself as a lawyer and as a crime scene investigator, because that is what I was passionate about. By no means that I have any idea that I would be sitting here today and introducing myself as an author and as a holistic counselor and healer. What a difference, right? So, this is something that I am so deeply passionate about now and helping people to create change. And I think just the funny side of it, even though I wanted to become a crime scene investigator and a lawyer, that's helping people move through different types of change, right? So now as a holistic counselor and as a healer and as a coach, just like you, we bring a bit of a different twist to change and transformation in a completely different context, in a completely different way.
Wow, I mean, such an inspiration, and it's like so much to talk about, Yvette. And my first question would be, how did it all start? You were a crime scene investigator, a lawyer. What brought you? What was the first, step which took you to the
Right.
direction where you are today?
That's a good question. So I actually studied becoming a crime scene investigator and lawyer, but this is now answering your question, that plot twist. Something happened that
Mhm.
completely changed it. Number one, I actually did not have enough money to continue studying, but at the same time, depression, anxiety,
Mhm.
toxic coping strategies, really unhealthy ways of coping with my life. It was so unhealthy that these coping strategies actually ended up creating even more stress in my life, right? So it's almost like these strategies that we try to reach out to and different things that we try to do to cope, not thrive, but to at least just cope. It's like we're keeping our head above water just barely. These strategies create new problems all by themselves because it's not the right solution to the problem that we're having. So I kept applying the wrong solution to the problem, and it would just keep getting worse and worse and worse. And it fueled my frustration with the world. It fueled my relationship with whatever you want to call it, with God, with life, with the universe, because I was always thinking, when is it going to be my turn? When is it going to be me? When am I going to do better? When is the doors opening up for me? Because I felt like everything that I did would just stall. It just wouldn't work. It would work a little bit, and then it just stops, and then I'm back to where I was. And it just fueled this incredible anger, this incredible frustration in me. And for anyone that has ever been stuck in that place, it's not a great place to be in. It's hard to feel optimistic. It's hard to feel excited about the future. It's hard to feel that there's going to be light at the end of the tunnel if we haven't even seen any evidence or glimpse of that. Where do you go? What do you do? And I collapsed. I had a proper collapse in that depression, in that anxiety, in this unhealthy way of living my life, and just trying to keep my head above water to breathe. And many of us, I just woke up one day and I just decided, oh my goodness, I just can't do this anymore. When you feel so unresourceful, you feel you don't have the answers anymore, but our ego, no, I'm not going to ask for help. No, I could do this by myself. No, right? That overarching shame and guilt and feeling unworthy of asking for help. This was like a washing machine in my heart. But I have to say, I really did meet my dark night of the soul. And one thing that struck me that day is that, why is there people around me that's happy? Why are they happy and I'm not? What are they doing that I'm not? What is it? And this is going to sound really funny, but this really happened. Honest to God, this really happened. You know, back then, back in the days, we had these clunky Dell computers with these big screens and these big keyboards. Yeah. I sat there in front of that computer and I typed in how to be happy. I asked Google because I didn't know. And just to add to that day, I actually wanted to Google how to end my life. That's the dark night of the soul. But something just kicked in my mind, and something just said, Yvette, you're asking the wrong question. And that's when I started thinking, there has to be another way. So I Googled it. And back then, I was an atheist because I was raised Christian. My father was an alcoholic. He was a drug addict. I was the only child. And he was a very violent man. So that can just give you an idea what my life was like with him. And so I hated religion. I turned my back on God because the violence and the abuse, and he was the drunk with the Bible under his arm. So my introduction to God, to energy, to life, to religion, prayer, belief was toxic. So, and then on the screen, angels, crystals, energy healing, Neale Donald Walsch, conversation with God. And I'm sitting and I'm thinking, is this some kind of joke from this so-called God that doesn't even exist? I was angry. Daniel, I was so angry. But like many of the times, which and I'm sure many people could maybe relate, when you are on your knees and you don't have the answer, who am I to question that? Who am I to question that? I didn't have a better solution. So to long story short, I dived straight into Neale Donald Walsch, Conversations with God. And let me tell you, 3 months later, not just with that, but that was my entry point. I dived into courses, personal development, and 3 months later, I changed my life. That I quit my corporate job. I found a business partner, and I told people how I changed my life, and people loved it. They loved it because it was real, it was raw, it was honest. And I just explained what I did. And we made a few videos on YouTube. It went viral, booked out for months overseas to go speak and teach. And as I was speaking and teaching, my books, it just came. It's like the universe just opened up. And believe it or not, every book that I have written was a breakdown. It was a breakdown that I had in my life, but it was also my breakthrough. And so this is how I just documented my life, and I continue to share with people my lowest moments, my deepest vulnerabilities, but also what I did with that. I made myself, I think, so relatable to people, to help people to understand that no one is above pain. No one is above a breakdown, and no one is above the dark night of the soul. No one. No matter what you do, where you are, what you're doing, we all can go through that. And the more we can openly speak about that and normalize that, the more we can get back on track. Because if you can name it, then we know what we can do with it. And this is where and how we can start to recreate the life that we want. One step at a time, one breath at a time. And this, Daniel, is how my journey started.
And this is amazing. It's like, wow. And of course, as you said, I'm a mental fitness coach, so I really relate what you say. And
Yeah.
you see what one element, I mean, there's so many to pick there, but one so important element is that we cannot just heal on ourselves. I mean, we need as well others. We need support around us. And for whoever who's watching today, it's, coaches, whomever they are, I mean, they are heart-centered people, and really they offer you the space to express yourself vulnerably without
Right.
fear of being judged, of being criticized, of being unsolicited advice. And when you start opening up, instead of bottling every negative energy, which afterwards is
Yeah.
causing diseases, mental stress, and everything, just start speaking, just open up like you did. And you see, and this is one point, but the other point which came to mind is that, and I had the same, I went through very dark periods as well. But I realized that every event in my life, it happened for a reason. And this really was a change, because some people
Yeah.
think, oh, life happens to me. I'm the poor victim. Boyfriend dumped me, or I lose my job and all that. No, actually, when you start looking at your life back, you realize that everything is there to bring you to another space, to teach you some lessons in life. And
Yeah.
and you said, it's why I really resonates with you. Our biggest breakthrough are just waiting for us on the opposite of our breakdown.
Yeah. It's very true.
You see, so it's and so, as you said, so each of the books, it came up from, there was a breakdown, and
Oh,
then
yes.
what the inspiration.
Yes.
Can you tell us about, the various books, and which were, which provided the most transformation, I mean, to you and then to your readers?
Right. So I actually, out of the 21, I have to say some of my favorites and probably hardest breakdowns would be the Abundance Mindset book. This was my journey and my relationship with success, with purpose, how I designed and set up my life. But the way that I lived my life to achieve my goals, to live my purpose, this also led me to having a stress-induced heart attack before the age of 30. There I was in hospital on the brink of being a millionaire, and I nearly died because of stress. Stress because of how I was chasing after my dreams, my career goals, everything that I wanted. And deep down, that stress that nearly ended my life was an end result. The core essence of it was that inner child that was so angry at my father, who didn't believe in me, who told me that you will wipe vomit off of the floors in the pubs where I drink, including mine. That's what he said to me when I was 13.
Wow.
And burned into my mind. It burned in every neurotransmitter and neuron in my mind. And I lived my life from there on to prove him wrong. And I did. I did. I was 13. The conversation with him came up when I was 13, and I said to him, he was drunk on the couch. And I said, Dad, I saw a BMW today. Oh, that is my new dream car. I'm going to buy that car one day. And that's when he said that to me, what I'm going to become. He said, you can forget about buying that car. That car is for rich people. Daniel, I every night I lied in my bed and I saw myself abundant, powerful, strong. I didn't know what I was going to do, but what I knew was I was going to be financially safe, and I'm going to drive that goddamn BMW. Long story short, I was 19 when I pulled a 318i BMW with 9 kilometers on the speedometer. I custom designed that car. In the fabrication, exactly how I wanted to be built, what should be added. I was 19. I had 2 apartments. I was living in Johannesburg. I had an incredibly high paying job in construction. And I did it. I did it. But you know what? My anger was my gasoline. My anger motivated me. And I remember when I was 20, I was in the hospital for 2 days for burnout. For burnout, because I was working 85 to 90 hours a week. I was chasing that overpay. I was chasing the hours. I was chasing the status, trying to maintain my good name and everything that I've created. And I collapsed. And so in my new career, I recreated that in a different way. But in such a tough way, traveling, jet lag, different time zones, every week a different time zone, speaking, teaching. It was a lot. It was a lot. I was barely at this beautiful mansion of a house that I owned in the French Polynesia Islands. I was barely there because I was working so hard. And I couldn't let go of the work ethics that I had because I feared that if I let go of my anger, I let go of my drive and my gasoline to achieve success. I associated success with this fight. I didn't know how to become successful without this fight. And my anger towards my father is what helped me to stay connected to that fight. So in a way, I indirectly sabotaged working on my relationship with my father and letting go of that pain, the wounds, the abuse, everything that happened. And I collapsed under that. Took me a while to figure out what was really going on. But let me tell you, when you lie in a hospital bed and you have that machine on your heart and you're thinking, is someone else going to go and live in this house that I worked so hard for? Someone else is going to go and empty my bank account. Someone else is going to stand on my stage and take over everything that I work for. What do I have to show for it? I thought I did the inner work, which I did, but there was a powerful element missing that was controlling me without me even realizing it. And I confused that anger with eustress. You know, positive stress?
Yeah.
I confused it with eustress. This was not positive stress. And So in that book, I wrote how I changed my mindset, how I had to change my relationship with money, how I had changed my relationship with success, and what my new definition of success is. It's not about living in a big house that costs you thousands to maintain and staff and is this and is that. I really changed my definition. And when my definition matched my new mindset, that is when I felt real, true success for the first time. And God, Daniel, let me tell you, it was the most peaceful, graceful success that I have ever experienced. And I still have it. But it was a hell of a journey to understand that and to work through that and to unpack it, to look at the ugly emotions, to look at the ugly memories and to face it head on and to realize that my desire for freedom was stronger than holding on to that anger. And that is what pulled me through. That is what pulled me through.
I mean, it's extraordinary, and thank you so much for sharing. And Yvette, you said that obviously this anger towards your dad, this was really your tool. Would you kind of remember perhaps a day or an element on which it really you get this click where all of a sudden this was gone? Was there something which I don't know, because it's such a big thing.
The plot thickens. The plot thickens. So after the incident with my heart, I started to work on it. And I was really trying to really dive deep into it. And then I started to develop chronic fatigue syndrome. The doctor tells me, no, you're fine. It's all in your head. But I'm in the shower. I get out and I have to sit on the floor to catch my breath before I could get dressed. That's how bad it was. And you know what was the missing key? And something that a lot of people don't realize. When we experience a trauma, we have the aftermath of that, the pain, right? We have the wounds. But there's another element that we also have, that we also need to address to really truly find our peace. And that is your narrative and your opinion of how you feel about that trauma. I didn't know that. And when I healed and addressed and fully resolved the anger that I felt because of how powerless my father made me feel, that was my breakthrough. That was when I could get into the powerless, which turned into anger. Because what happens when we feel powerless for too long? Some people collapse and other people switch and they fight. Right? And I fought. I collapsed. And then I really collapsed with a chronic fatigue syndrome. And the moment I healed that, when I worked on that through therapy and addressing it vigorously, I think it was 3 weeks and the chronic fatigue just lifted, Daniel. It just lifted. I'm not saying that everyone who has chronic fatigue, that's the issue, but that was the issue for me personally speaking. So the story that I told myself about my pain, that became almost like a second trauma that I didn't realize locked me in to this toxic cycle of anger. I had to learn how to live without anger. How do I set boundaries without anger? What is my identity without anger? How do I get what I want without anger? What does money look like without anger? How does success look like if I'm not fighting and competitive and getting to where I want to be? Right? What does life look like in the absence of that? It blew my mind because I couldn't imagine it. I had to live through it. And it was hard. I'm not going to say this was the pull the plug out and all the, your cards all collapse on the table and that's it. It was, like I said in the beginning, one breath at a time, one step at a time. Yeah.
It's so powerful, Yvette. I mean, I'm just mind blowing. And
Mm.
I suppose that obviously, you are a healer, right? And you learn all these techniques, but of course, from what I heard you saying, I mean, anybody who has anger issues, really should consult with you. I mean, at least, read your books and read your story. So how now, in your day-to-day life, how can you help people? How can they reach out to you? Because obviously, I mean, uh, there's so
Yeah.
much there. You've lived it and it transpires so much. This experience, people will resonate with this. And we all had anger a moment or another. So,
Of course. Right.
yeah.
And this is why I wrote my books, because a lot of my books was because of my relationship with anger. I just didn't realize it. You know, the book about like the abundance mindset that I talked about, and then there's one called Boundary Breakthrough.
Mhm.
How do you how do you set boundaries without anger? How do you set boundaries without creating isolation and avoidance? So all my lessons that I learned was all documented in all of these books. How to find your happiness in the absence of anger, which is I think it's the contentment key or key to, all my books are over there on the floor, and it's just, oh my goodness, there's so many. I actually have to look at my own book and list. But I think the best one to actually look at is my autobiography, Unveiling My Truth.
Mhm.
Because there I wrote the chapters from the age perspective that I was in. A lot of people write lives about their books as an adult. You know, how you see the adult self, see the child, which is, it's not really an accurate interpretation. But there I wrote it from my perspective and how I progressed through these different stages of my life, and awareness and observing things, and how it made me feel, and the struggles and the challenges with it, and how I had this this love-hate relationship with God. It was tough, and it's a raw book, but it's an honest book. It's honest to God. I couldn't be more honest than what I am there. It is completely unfiltered. And I think that is what's needed, because as vulnerable and as scary as it felt, people read it now, and they find healing in just reading it, because they see so many aspects of themselves in that. They realize, wow, if I have that thought, it's not wrong. Other people have it too. When that happens to you, okay, when I feel this angry, when I react like that, wow, this is not just unique to me. It's okay. So this is where breaking the silence with anger, breaking the silence with violence, breaking the silence with abuse, because I can tell you right now, anger is part of the History Channel on my TV. Do I still get angry? Absolutely. But it's not this raging anger. I am in control of my anger. It's not controlling me anymore. My brain doesn't get to that point where it gets hijacked, because I feel the anger building and I intervene. I intervene. I don't allow it to grow anymore, because there's just no place in my life for anger anymore, because it has absolutely dominated every aspect of me, and no
Mhm.
more. I said no to anger. It's just an emotion. It's not my life. So why the hell should it rule my life? Why?
Mhm.
Why? Anger is not even a person. It's not an entity. It's not a thing. Why should it take away my happiness, my love for my people, my children, my life? Why should it take away my capacity to take in everything that I have created? What is the point of creating happiness? You cannot be happy and angry at the same time. They cancel each other out. You have to choose. What do you want to feel?
Absolutely. Yeah. Mhm.
Every day, Every memory, every emotion that you entertain in the present moment is designing your future. It's designing your future.
Exactly.
What do you want that future to look like? Now is your time, not tomorrow. It's now. Because your past doesn't need you. Your future does. There's no point being in the past.
Absolutely.
And, you know, when people ask me sometimes, they ask me, Yvette, so, you know, and when I'm actually going to flip the question, because this question was asked to me. And then I ask now people that I sometimes work with, I ask them, listen, how much is enough for you to finally change your life? How much do you need to suffer? What is your limit? And then people say, I need to scream. I need to feel like I've lost control. I need to be on my knees. And then I say to them, what if I told you that it can just be a decision?
Exactly.
I made that decision when I nearly lost my life. For what purpose? For what purpose? My life is more important than a goddamn emotion. I can tell you that now. And I can see that with absolute, utter clarity. And I call my power back from anger. I call my power back from people who don't believe in me, people who don't see me, because you don't know me. I know myself. I know my capacity. Right? And this is what people forget. And I hope that every single person listening to this right now remembers that. Because our greatness is destroyed during our childhood. People's traumatized words becomes our truth. And then we spend the rest of our life trying to deprogram and unwire that. But did you know that you can also just make a choice and choose to stop believing toxic words and traumatize people who couldn't give you the love that you wanted? Because normally we call adults, as children, we call adults into such a beautiful, pure, and sacred place of love. And people cannot meet a child there most of the time because they themselves never experienced that. And someone else's shortcoming, that rejection becomes feedback. And we place our self-worth and our value on that feedback. Let me tell you, I call my power back from that. And may everyone else listening to this today do the same.
You know what? It's fantastic. I was just going, to make a little comments is same thing, take your power back. And you see, there's one thing I'd like just to share quickly is that, what one sentence which helped me so much, and this comes from the Four Agreements.
Yeah.
It's
Tell me.
It's don't take things personally. And you
Right.
see, when I start, and it's, by default, of course we react to what people say. But when you understand that whatever people say to you, whatever people do to you, it's got nothing to do with you, nothing. It's these people reflecting their own childhood trauma, their insecurities, their uncertainties, their doubts. And perhaps, I don't know your father, but perhaps if you are looking at his, parents, we inherited, and when we start realizing that the facts are not going to change, this happened in life, but what we make of that, this changes.
Yes.
It's not my problem, it's your problem. So thank you so much, Yvette, for your time. And I know we went a little over. Are there any
Of
3 little
course.
tips you would like to give to our listeners before ending this interview? 3.
3. What
Some
tips?
tips.
3
Yeah,
tips.
and people who have anger
Okay.
issues. What are the first 3 steps they could take now?
Very good. Very good. So the first one is, the moment what works for me is when someone makes you angry, it means this person touched on a vulnerability, on a part of you that feels unsafe.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, what I silently say to myself is, you've already heard it. I call my power back from you. I
Mhm.
call my power back from this situation. Number two, I call this the alpha state. This is the alpha breath work that I teach in my technique. And that's when we breathe in the mouth, out the nose 13 times. Hold your breath on the last count. But because just doing this breath work, we need 90 seconds for the prefrontal cortex to kind of like register messages and data back to the hippocampus with the amygdala to calm everything down. So a lot of things can go wrong in those 90 seconds. That breathwork exercise gives you time and the mind to reconnect back, to calm down, but also it resets the nervous system. It gets you out of that fight and flight state. That is what we want. And the third point is what helped me is how do I choose to respond instead of allowing someone's behavior or words to control how you respond. So I
Yeah.
hope that helps.
Thank you so much. And obviously, this is mind-blowing. So I invite all auditors, people who watch this podcast, to contact Yvette, Dr. Evette Rose. You will see her details will be there. And it was such a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for this wisdom and for sharing so vulnerably
Of
with
course.
our auditors. Thank you. And to everybody who watched, thank you for being with us. And I hope you took a lot from this episode, and see you in the next episode. Thank you.